I absolutely love horror, and that's how I became aware of you. Was Hatchet 3. Was there any trepidation moving into that? This was something that was already a cult classic. It was had its own kind of notoriety and fan base. Was there any anxiety taking that on, like taking on a third movie like that?
Obviously day one is always you're nervous, because you want to do a good job. Uh, it was not as bad for me, I think, on that one because I was part of one and two. I
Yeah.
was behind the camera for both one and two, so it was more of like just going there and just getting the job done. I just wanted to make sure it looked different. I didn't want it to look like the other two.
Yeah.
Uh, I wanted to change the visual style to it, and I did, some of the things in the movie I actually had an input on a lot,
Mm.
like story wise. Um, I just I didn't want it to look the same. I wanted to actually, go a totally different aspect ratio. The actors, I knew Kane on Devil's Rejects. That's where I met him.
Yeah.
So I knew him before all the Hatchet stuff,
Mm.
and we already knew each other at that point. And I had worked with so many of the actors on that already. Derek Mears, I met on MacGruber.
Yeah.
He was in that short little stint, and I love that guy. Trejo, I've worked with him like a trillion times, with the Slayer stuff,
Yeah.
so it was, it wasn't bad. Trejo was not in the Hatchet series, but it was easier for me on that one because it wasn't something I wasn't I was a part of it already. So I
It was the
already
same
kind of
crew mostly, and same
mostly,
team.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of the
Uh,
same team. I brought a couple different people in, but yeah, it was still pretty much the same thing. I knew what kind of vibe we were going for, so I wanted to keep that kind of a vibe with the movie. Obviously didn't want to change it too much, because it already had a fan base to it. So,
right.
it was that one. It was nice to transition that way because, it wasn't me going in there blind.
Right. Yeah. And that's what stands out to me with the Hatchet movies is the first one, second one, third one all feel cohesive but different. The first one feels the first one, it is funny when you hear behind the scenes stories, like you realize the movie all is in one section of this area that they could keep lit and they just keep going in circles. You can feel that small, it feels almost claustrophobic, even though they're in the middle of a huge swamp. In the second
It
one
was even
feels
more claustrophobic.
well, the second one feels, it's heavy. It's very, very heavy on the effects side and a lot of those gags. And then the third one, like that one feels very big, like there's a very, I put it on for a little bit last night again, and it's the one I find myself throwing on the most when I'm like working on something. I'll just put it on and look up, and that's super cool. But it's one of those things where like it just feels really, really, really big. And there's a lot of lore to it. Was that your big goal going into it? Because it feels like that was kind of the push there.
That was a huge part for me, and it's funny because it looks bigger and it had the smaller of the budgets of all of
Yeah.
them.
Well, that's
And
why I wanted to ask that because when I first watched the series, I thought the budgets were getting bigger because the movies looked better moving forward. Um, was it the smallest of the three?
of the three, yeah, I don't know what I have no idea what Victor Crowley is, but it was the smaller of the three for sure. It
Mm.
was, the budget was not big. The one thing that I think the way I did it and the way I approached it was because I have a different skill set of visual than Adam. And that is because of my background as a camera operator and also being able to know how to open up the world a bit more. My whole thing was let's go shoot actually in the swamp, which was super freaking difficult and hard and like it's miserable. But I knew that if I could at least do that, the movie would feel bigger, even though the budget was smaller.
Mm.
Also, my connections with Panavision, the people that I work with, with Panavision, they're good friends of mine, and they've helped me out in everything I've done. Those guys have backed me, and
Mm.
I chose the different aspect ratio, which makes it look bigger. I
Yeah.
chose more of the open. We shot in an actual swamp, so you can actually open that world up and really see what like get the depth of the swamps. Even
You
at
can
night,
turn
you can
right and there's
you
stuff
can turn
there.
right, and exactly the lenses alone. Like I shot with Panavision lenses, which that's the only one I ever shot with Panavision lenses, and that makes a huge difference. Honestly, the glass that you use to make movies is very, very important because it is the look of the film, because every lens has a different feel to it. So that was my huge goal. And that was just, I want to make this look like something different. I want it to open up and expand the world and be able to like see what's going on or have the depth that we want to have, yeah, that's what I really wanted to bring to the table in that. Cause I already
Right.
knew what we were shooting,
Yeah.
story wise, but let's just make sure this looks huge.
Right. Right.
That was, that was a huge goal of mine.
Yeah. Yeah. Just even watching, because I love the intro. I love how sudden you got to pick up at a really exciting point, So you're starting the film with this super gory opening.
Yeah.
And then it's funny, like watching the intro, you still got the cool, fast paced, bloody letters and, the heavy metal background and stuff. But you've also got these super scenic shots of this
Yeah.
swamp and the
Well,
locations. And
yeah.
it just hit me again as I was specifically thinking about you in preparation for this. I was just like, man, this just feels so big. Like it feels like almost like these almost like a western, like those big landscapes,
Yeah.
in the opening,
That was,
which is super cool.
and that was it. Like, and I remember telling my buddy Eric when he was shooting the intro stuff, we were doing that. It's like, we just need to make this look big. Let's let the actor be far away. It's not everything's so confined. It's hard to work though. In defense of the other ones, when you have such confined areas to make anything look big, and you have to stay up close. Like it's tough. To
Right.
open up those worlds, and that was a huge thing that I wanted to do with Hatchet. And I'm proud of that. Actually, I'm proud of the way it looks. And that was shot on a red one. Like right
Yeah.
when the red ones were just coming out, we panavized. It was a panavized red one, so we could use the lenses on it. Their lenses on a red one, and that's like that's very in the beginning of the digital times.
Mm-hmm.
The cameras they've changed so much even since then. And you look at the red one stuff now, and you're kind of like, ooh, like, ouch.
Right.
But again, with color timing and putting the film grain into the digital look, it's great. It came out cool.